I have a problem. I mean, I have many problems, but this is one of them. I got some of you, a vocal minority, asking me to talk about news from Romania. It's like, hey, you're Romanian TV. Why don't you talk about news from Romania? It's because not a lot of people care about news from Romania, believe it or not. I mean, it's difficult for me to look up the Romanian news and find something interesting. Then I noticed that only a couple of people watch it. So usually I like to talk about other things that interest more people. It's just quantity over quality, I guess. Assuming that Romanian news would be of more of a quality measure. But anyway, right now, usually news about Romania are about corruption. They're about other things that probably don't interest most of you guys who already subscribe to my channel. But every now and then we get something very interesting, something that is quite hilarious, and maybe we can learn something from it. Turns out that a man went to assist his woman giving birth. Now, I don't understand why this bourgeois Western crap is coming to Romania. I mean, the idea of the father assisting the woman at birth is a Western thing. We didn't have it up until recently, right? And it's usually because of movies that came from the West, I assume, and a lot of doctors looked at practice in the West. If I was a woman and I was shitting another human being out of my vagina, I would not want the husband anywhere near me. Am I in the wrong with this? Am I the only one that's thinking about it? Like, it's the same thing. Like, if I have a kidney stone and I need to pee it out, in my opinion, it's comparable with giving birth. It's probably more painful, you know why? Because there's a lot of women that gave birth and then wanted to go a second time, but I don't know of a single man that gave birth to a kidney stone and then wanted to get it again. And like, you know what I want? I want another kidney stone. I want to put it in my collection. That doesn't happen. But for some reason, right, they're like when I'm in pain, and this is true with most people, like we're in pain, we just want to be left alone. Like, other people annoy us. Just let me get through the pain. Let me get through the process. And after we get through the process, then we get someone else and we talk. I mean, I had the zit once. I had to go to a surgeon to pull out the zit. Do you think I wanted my wife anywhere near me during that procedure? Do you think, like, no, of course not. So I genuinely don't understand this idea. It's like, oh yes, they're giving birth, so the husband needs to be there. Like, no, thank you. And my wife agrees with it. Like, she wants to go in, gives birth, and then I go, and when it's all over. Even though I'm a doctor, like, I don't need to see that. Not with my wife, all right? It changes a person. But anyway, right, so, even the wife doesn't get to see it, by the way. Like you don't get the angle to see it, do you? You just spread your legs and then they show it to you. Like, no one should see that. But anyway, look, that's not the thing. It's just a little bit of an extra rant. The story is about a man who goes to see his wife and be with his wife as she is giving birth. A beautiful thing. That's what I need to say, right? That is the politically correct thing to say. Beautiful thing. The miracle of birth. Okay. Now, he goes in, and the moment you enter a Romanian hospital right now, you have to sign papers. It's like, papers, can you sign the papers? It's like, sign here that you're not coughing, sign here that you don't have a fever, sign here that you haven't met anyone that has traveled to England or any other countries that have COVID, sign here, blah, blah, blah. And you get to sign all of that. And as he is signing the papers, the wife is being taken to the operating theater, while the man is being told to sit down and wait. And after a couple of minutes, a nurse materializes from the ether and asks for such and such. And the man goes like, I am such and such. What must I do, my lady? And the nurse says, you must follow me, my son. And she follows her through the miracle of modern hospitalization, where she asks him, have you taken a shower? And he says he has taken one yesterday, but the nurse insists, no. You must take one today. So she gives him a hospital gown, provides him with shampoo and soap, and tells him that the filthy peasant needs to go into the bathroom and come out clean. The purity of the soul. Now, the man doesn't question. because he thinks the pandemic, the science, okay, like it's required, so he does what he is told. And as he comes out of the shower, he is greeted by several nurses. They multiplied as he was in there. And now they tell him to sit on a chair, which had wheels, very comfortable chair. And yet again, the man doesn't question anything, right? He trusts the science, he trusts into the experts as they lead him into the next room. And at the next room, they want to take his blood. They pump the vein and they pick out the blood. Again, the man doesn't question, right? Like, he really believes that this is required. And one nurse even asks him, have you shaved the hair on your abdomen? And the man says, no, he has not. And the nurse goes, it is required. You must. And she brings on a shaving apparatus. I gotta say, I'm reading this story. And I'm placing myself into the shoes of this man. Like, at no point is he asking any questions. At no point is he a little bit bewildered by this. It's like, hold on a little bit. No, like, he's like, no, these are precautions to keep people safe in his mind, right? Now, apparently, one of the nurses asks him if he is nervous. And the man says that he is because he already had a kid last year. And there were some complications. And because of that, he is nervous now. And last year, he couldn't see his wife because of the pandemic. And now that he can, yes, he is very nervous. So the nurse says, don't worry about it. Our hospital staff is highly trained. And it's a team of professionals. Right? So now the guy is a little bit more at ease. But they notice that the nurses give him a perfusion. Like they perfuse. The perfusion is the dripping of a liquid through a tube into the vein. And apparently the perfusion was to calm him down. Was to calm him down a little bit, right? And again, like, the man doesn't ask any questions. Like, he goes along with it until a nurse asks him, so what surgery are you about to perform? And he says, I'm not going to perform any surgery. I am here to witness my wife during a C-sec. During a surgery that's going to put Planned Parenthood out of a business. Like, I'm trying to rob a client from Planned Parenthood here, alright? But the nurses don't understand. They start laughing and they ask yet again with a more serious voice. It's like, what procedure are you going to actually take? And he's like, no, I'm not taking any procedure. I'm just here to see my wife. And it's at this point that the nurses realize they fucked up, right? And now the man is completely outraged. He is incredibly pissed off about all of this. And apparently he called the hospital asking for satisfaction. And you may wonder, like, what is the satisfaction? Money for what they did to him. Okay, what did they do to him? Look what they've done to me. And it's the picture on the news, as you can see. Look, they punctured him. They pumped out the blood. They pumped in things to calm him down. Unacceptable. He wants money. He's probably going to get money, by the way, because this actually is a malpractice thing. Like, it's you're not supposed to take blood from someone that doesn't consent. But I'm reading this, right? And then I'm going into the comment section and I see a lot of people angry. It's like, oh, the hospitals in Romania, look what they done to him. Now, I don't neglect the fact that there are many cases of malpractice that are actually abhorrent. I don't think this is it, Chief. And hear me out. And just hear me out a little bit. This is bad, but it's not abhorrent. Alright? Like, abhorrent is when you operate on a guy and you remove the wrong kidney. There was actually a case where there was a guy that had a testicle tumor and they removed the wrong testicle. Alright? And then they scheduled him next week to remove the other one. So that is abhorrent. This is just a fuck up. You decide how big or how small, but I'll tell you why it's happening, alright? Most hospitals are already understaffed. A lot of people have been patients, but not a lot of people have been doctors. So they have more empathy for the patient than they have for the doctor. I'll tell you, as a person who has been working in the hospital and who is a doctor, imagine working 32 hours a day. Like, V, How can you work 32 hours a day if a day has 24 hours? Through the miracle of science, motherfucker, and through the miracle of bureaucracy. That's how. You wake up at 6 a.m. and you're on call. So you stay the entire day until the next day at 6 a.m. So that's 24 hours, right? Unless I'm not adding them properly. And then you also have the 8-hour shift, which starts the very next day. So you're staying at the hospital 32 freaking hours, working nonstop. And then you go home, you sleep for as much as you can, because the next day at 6 a.m., boom, it's your turn again. So this is what it's called to be on call as a doctor. And you kind of have to do this depending on where you work 3 to 4 times a month. But because of the medical shortage, you can even do it like 6 or 7 times a month. Is it possible that a human being can fuck up when this happens? Like, that's what it is when you get hospital shortages. It's not just the fact that there's fewer patients that can get treated. It's also the fact that the staff that is actually at the hospital now has to do the job of 2 or 3 or 4 other of their colleagues. And when you make a person work that much, they're going to fuck up. It's unavoidable. Like, I don't know, like, you take a truck driver and make him drive for 32 hours a day. See what's happening if you do that. So that is one of the reasons why you get these accidents, as they say. And, of course, the accidents aren't excusable. I mean, I'm pretty sure these people are going to get sued. They're probably going to have their wages cut if the guy wins the lawsuit. But what I want you to know is that you as a patient have rights. I know this is horrible. I get it. You know, in the Soviet Union, patients had 0 rights. Like, you as a patient would often not even know the condition you're being diagnosed in. Like, you would go to the hospital and the doctor would say, take these pills and fuck off. Seriously, I'm not kidding. Like, that's what happened during the time of my grandparents. That's how the medical system worked in the Soviet Union. You had 0 rights as a patient because the doctor wasn't working for you. It was working for the government. We had this great thing called public health, right? So the doctor would get the same amount of money regardless of how many patients he had, which means that he didn't really give a shit about bedside manners and whatnot, right? But the more enlightened world, I guess the more reactionary world, the ones that were a little bit less progressive, they said, no, the patient has rights. So the rights of the patient is to ask questions. Why are you doing this to me? What, for what reason? Okay? Like, that's the correct way of thinking. So just because you go to a hospital, you shouldn't just trust 100% of what you're being told. Like, the moment you see something suspicious, like you're going there to see your wife giving birth, and someone wants to shave the hair from your abdomen, or someone asks you to shower and gives you a hospital gown, you should already start asking questions. Like, is this normal? Is this procedure? Like, am I... But not even that. Like, even before going to the hospital, you should already ask other doctors, like, okay, so what is going to happen when I'm there? Like, what are they going to do? All right, so they're going to take my wife there. I'm going to wait in the lobby. What next? Like, you should do, like, some little basic research is what I'm saying. Which is kind of annoying because, again, like, some people know how to do the research properly. Other people don't. And then you have 100 patients waiting at the door, and you have, like, someone that didn't do the research properly, and you have to talk with them for, like, 30 or 40 minutes while everyone else is waiting. And that's another story. But still, okay, like, I expect that adults would be able to at least go to the hospital 1 or 2 days before and ask the questions. It's like, all right, I'm going to come with my wife here. What must I know? What must I do? So that you don't come unprepared. But anyway, you know, like, this was a funny story. I guess the guy managed to get away with his appendix intact. His wife gave birth. And everyone is outraged at the doctors in the comment section. I can understand that it's a fuck up. Don't get me wrong. You decide if it's excusable or not, because I don't know the situation. But what I am trying to tell people is that you need to understand you have some rights. And you need to be a responsible adult and use those rights in order to avoid shit like this. Let me know what you guys think, though, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.